So the most recent PTR patch just went live in Overwatch, and it actually brings a lot of good things to the game, a lot of balance changes that are for the better, and I really think Blizzard had the right intentions with this one. It also gave us Hook 2.0 for Roadhog, which is kind of gimmicky, we'll talk about it in a bit, but it also had some kind of negative side effects, and they're not kind of negative side effects, they're definitely negative side effects, like the fact that Sombra is unplayable right now. Her hack doesn't actually work on certain heroes at certain times, like literally, randomly, you just can't hack people. We're going to analyze it, break it down here today, and talk about what you should know about the current patch. Let's talk about nerfs first. Up first on the list, we have Ana. Ana's Biotic Grenade now only increases healing on allies by 50%. If you didn't know already, when you grenaded an ally, it used to double the incoming healing they received. Now it only multiplies incoming healing by 1.5 times, which is a pretty hefty nerf. With this nerf in mind, a lot of people are going to go ahead and tell you that Ana's Grenade is probably going to be better used on enemies rather than friendlies, because it still denies their healing. However, you still have to remember it does give you a big boost in healing. While it used to double your heals, it doesn't do that anymore, but it still increases the amount of healing you receive by a lot. And when Ana is just focus healing someone, more often than not, the grenade used to overheal them. Like, you'd heal them up to full HP so fast it wouldn't even matter. So, given that the grenade is still a pretty big increase in healing, I don't think it's going to be too big of a nerf to Ana. I still think she's going to be a must pick for sure, definitely over the other supports, but you know, maybe this will actually cut back a little bit on the amount of tanks we see in a game. You know, triple tank and quadruple tank may take a little bit of a hit from this. In fact, they're definitely going to take a hit from this. The real question is how much. I wouldn't say this is really a nerf to Ana more than it's a nerf to the heavy tank compositions. Ana will still be the best healer. The increased healing will still be amazing on low HP targets like DPS heroes and anyone under 300 HP. You know, this only hurts against tanks really. So I think this is really a good way to cut back on the amount of tanks you see in a game while still keeping Ana pretty meta. Maybe too meta even. Maybe she'll still be OP. Who really knows? Only time can tell you some of these things. Up next on the chopping block, we have some well-needed nerfs for D.va. Her health is being increased to 400 from 200 because her armor is being decreased from 400 to 200, which means she now has 200 armor and 400 HP. So she can actually kind of be countered now. Zarya will counter her a little bit better. Reaper can counter her a little bit more. She is a lot more fair with these changes. On top of this, they've also actually changed the way her fusion cannons work, but everyone's kind of whining about it for no reason. Anyone that tells you the fusion cannons were hard nerfed are misinformed, because the fusion cannons were not just strictly nerfed. They were actually changed to function more consistently. What they did was they decreased the damage per pellet to 2 damage from 3 damage. So it is quite a bit lower per pellet, but they've also increased the amount of pellets from 8 to 11, which means the old shot used to deal 24 damage if you landed all the pellets. The new shot does 22. And if you consider her fire rate, yes, this is kind of a nerf in damage, but the consistency is what's really important here. Now it's going to feel like you're dealing consistent amounts of damage output, not kind of random damage output because of the amount of your pellets. Basically, the statistics behind the spread on your pellets has kind of been changed by changing the number of pellets to make it feel like your damage output is just more consistent and more predictable, not just random, which is definitely a good thing for D.va. It's not a hard nerf. In fact, some would argue that it's not a nerf at all, because consistency is a very good thing. Now, some people are complaining that the defense matrix has not been nerfed, and I kind of agree with them. Defense matrix is definitely a super powerful ability, definitely too powerful for what you get out of it. No skill put in, and you can counter almost every ultimate in the game. That doesn't seem balanced. But we also have to consider, now with the lower amounts of HP on D.va, she's really going to have to choose whether or not she wants to defense matrix herself in situations, and that will sometimes make her vulnerable to ultimates because she's already used her defense matrix, and she can be taken out of mech easier now, so her defense matrix can be countered more easily in that regard as well. So I don't think defense matrix directly needed to be changed as long as her mech was changed, which is exactly what happened. So hopefully this will fix the D.va spam and the amount of D.vas we see in game, because I can tell you with certainty it is way too many, And, you know, I'm looking forward to when this patch hits live as far as the D.va changes go. Now let's talk about changes, and by changes I mean Roadhog and Sombra. And you know, it's interesting that I list Sombra under a change and not a buff, because the only thing they were supposed to change on Sombra is the fact that it now only takes 0.8 seconds to hack someone instead of 1 second. So if this change was all they actually did, that would be a pretty good buff to Sombra. She hacks, you know, 20% faster. That sounds pretty good, because the old hack time was just way too slow. But they actually accidentally made it so Sombra can't hack people randomly for no reason, and we don't know why. You know, there's this guy on Reddit that even showed a video. He couldn't hack a tracer unless the tracer was in the air. When the tracer was on the ground, she was unhackable. You know, this kind of thing is interesting. I am not sure how this happens, to be honest. I mean, it must have happened through the Roadhog changes, because they had to do with line of sight, I imagine, and Sombra's hack is line of sight as well. So, interesting to see what Blizz is going to do there. The current state of Sombra cannot go live because she is just far too, like, unpredictable in what she can and cannot hack, at least in my experience. She can hack a lot of the time, but there are just some times where it doesn't work, and that's totally not cool. That is not okay. Even if it doesn't work 10% of the time, even if it doesn't work 5% of the time, that's far too much to really be in a competitive game. It needs to be able to work 100% of the time. That is what I'm talking about. But now, just considering the changes on its own, assuming that all that was changed was the hack, and we ignore the fact that it's bugged right now, Sombra is still too weak. She's not going to be good. She just needs more damage. That's my opinion on it, and, you know, I don't think there's too much that needs to be said there. She's a DPS hero. Let her do more damage. So now for the part we've all been waiting for. Hook 2.0, everyone. The big changes Blizzard made to Roadhog's hook. Boy, are they interesting. Now, if you're not aware already, let me basically give you a rundown of how the hook now works. If you hook someone and they are not within line of sight anymore, it breaks. Nothing happens. And the problem I have with this is that you can, like, break line of sight with anything now. You can break line of sight with a twig if you want. You can break line of sight with literally anything. So if you get hooked by Roadhog and you're anywhere near cover, that hook's not going to go off. But on the flip side of things, Roadhog can now consistently one-shot Ana and Mei, and you can even one-shot Zarya's if you have enough practice, which is kind of crazy, a little bit OP if you ask me, but let's not even get into that right now. Let's talk about the hook and if it's fair. If you watched my video the other day, you'll know that I talked about how the biggest problem with Roadhog's hook is latency, and you can't change latency in an online game. There will be times where on one person's screen, the person isn't behind cover, and on the other person's screen, they are. And in these situations, this used to favor Roadhog. So if Roadhog hooked someone and on their screen they were behind cover, it would seem to them like they were hooked through the wall. Now, instead of that, it favors the person being hooked. Now, that person that got hooked through cover no longer experiences this. So on Roadhog's end, it will just seem like he hooked someone who wasn't behind cover, and now the hook is broken because they were headed towards cover. So now it will no longer feel like the person on the receiving end gets shafted. Roadhog will pretty much always feel like he's gotten shafted. Basically, you throw the hook, you're like, boom, I'll pull this guy in. Nope. It broke. You hit a twig, it is broken now. So be cautious when trying to hook people near cover, because it'll probably break if they know that your hook is coming. But now if we can talk about the positive end of this, you know, when you hook someone in the open and the hook does not break, it is a much more satisfying experience. You can one-shot, like, anyone with 400 HP or less. You can even one-shot Zarya if the pellets line up right and you follow up with a melee attack, which is crazy. So definitely good on the, you know, the hook functions more properly now. It's just that the latency error when people are near cover is definitely going to cause some drama in the community. Some people are definitely going to complain. Some people are definitely going to, you know, go against it and, you know, whine and claim that the hook is totally busted when it's really not. It's just different now, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm not going to say that it's good or bad, because it just shifts who gets shafted, like I said before. Now the Roadhogs are getting shafted a little bit more, but they've also changed it so now people don't get away when they're hooked. So in the end, I think Roadhog is in the exact same place he was before. to be honest. Like, I can now hook an Ana, and she will die every time, and she won't be able to heal or sleep me or hit me with some other BS, and that's definitely a good thing. So I think the changes to Roadhog are actually, you know, I said I wasn't going to tell you, but I actually do like them. He was definitely too OP when hooking people, and now it's going to be much harder to land a hook, but once you do, it's definitely going to be much more rewarding to do so. So they're making Roadhog a little bit more skilled in that regard. I'm pretty sure. That's just my take on it all. Overall, I think the patch is a good one. Blizzard had the best intentions for this one, and I think the changes that they had in mind are definitely good. They're definitely moving in the right direction, and I can confidently say with more patches like these in the future, Overwatch is headed in a great direction away from the tank meta. Hopefully this video was informative to you all. If you did find it informative, be sure to watch my yesterday's video, which wasn't informative at all, but it was hysterical and it was extremely fun to make, and it's on screen right now. You should definitely click that. It's pretty good. So yeah, see you guys all later. Lone Hawk out.